This is Jackie's studio, and the customers walk into this space and just look around, and it's surrounded by water. And on a beautiful day, it's just amazing just to stand and look outside. But you're surrounded in this space by artwork everywhere. Basically collages, watercolors, prints, paintings, and there's a ceramics table. It is rich with work everywhere you look.
This is a collagraph proof. Underneath here is the plate that I used to print it. I'm going to make some alterations. There are a lot of things on the proof that I want to change. Collagraph printing is very similar in a lot of ways to doing collage. It involves combining textures and pieces, cutting out pieces, tearing pieces, and putting things together like the collage process, except that you're going to print from the resulting plate that you make. This is a small collagraph print. I've added some collage pieces to it, like on the roof of one of the cottages, the two blackbirds. And I'm also working on it with some pencils and crayons with the intention of printing another ink layer on top of it. The thing that I like about working on small plates is that I can work more quickly and play with different colorways. I'm not really too interested in running additions. Here you can see the plate and the print, which I'm going to re-ink the plate and put another layer of color on top of that print that I was just working on. But working small means that I can play with different color ways and see what I like best, what works, what doesn't, as far as contrast and showing up the details and textures of the plate. I'm inking it up intaglio here, and when I get the surface wiped, I'm going to take a roll of paper towel and just clean up the edges so that I get a nice clean print. Okay, I'm just going to place the print down. I have the plate registered on the press bed and the placement of the paper registered. And then I'll be putting on a piece of newsprint over top to protect the felts that I'm using. For this particular plate, it's very small, and it's the collage is not very thickly placed, so I'm just using two rather thin felts and a piece of cardboard and running it through. I've already adjusted the pressure. And so that's the resulting print. And here are some of the color variations that I did earlier. Some of them have more layers of ink, some have collage or other additions done to the sky and to the shapes in the foreground. Basically a way of experimenting and learning what prints well, what doesn't. In this segment, I am working on a collage. I've just gotten started and chosen a few of the larger shapes that will compose um, a landscape, actually a kind of point of land that breaks into the sky and the water, which is a kind of view that I often see around here. And I'm just giving myself an idea of how the placements will work out with these different pieces of paper and using the mat board L shapes to frame things for me. The papers come from different sources. Some of them are cut up prints that didn't work out. Some are like the blue in the background, that light blue in the background there was actually printed on purpose from a collagraph plate that just had very little texture on it, but I rolled it up with some ink. That piece you just saw was from an old painting that I wasn't very happy with. Some of the pieces are just the edges of sketchbook paper. Nothing is wasted, really. I usually find that the texture or the colors in a few papers next to each other really kind of stimulate my imagination and memory of places. And that's usually what gets me started on developing a piece. I play a lot with the placement and getting the pieces so that they overlap in certain ways or sit next to each other in very specific ways. So piecing the final collage together is a quite deliberate process of making sure that everything is very well placed and glued exactly as I saw it when I was placing everything together. Sometimes I prefer the torn edge rather than scissor cut edges. It all depends on what kind of edge I want next to the next piece, whether it's going to overlap to create a feeling of foliage or space. So the image is starting to come together now. I'm definitely going to have that light blue in the background above the point of land, but I'm going to need to have blue underneath the point too. So it will be necessary to register all these pieces together before gluing them down. I try to piece things so that there isn't a lot of edges of papers showing underneath, which would disrupt the pictorial surface. Right here I'm putting together something that is going to be very closely pieced with another part, and be reinforcing it in the back. Because I only have a small amount of glued edge there, I will piece these together and then put a piece on the back, a thinner piece of paper, to hold the collage in a very sturdy way from the back. I'm using matte medium as an adhesive here. Really pressing down. So here you can see I've flipped it over and I'm putting that reinforcing piece where I joined the other two collages. So you're looking at the back right there. And there it is, the front. And then I continue to work on some of the smaller pieces. You get used to being able to tear paper and get a sort of edge that you want. Sometimes you want the white edge to show, but if you tear paper so that you're tearing from the bottom, you get a nice sort of deckled edge without the white, which is what I've done with those dark shapes there. I made sure that I tore the paper tearing kind of in a downward way so that my color stayed on top to get the torn edge. And here I'm just playing with some of the smaller details that are going to go in. And now I'm registering for the blue area. So I used hash marks there to line up the piece of land with where the background of light blue is going to go. And that way I get it right in the place where I want it. I'll be doing the same with the area underneath the landform. There we go. It also helps me know where to put the glue, the matte medium. And they're lining up the registration marks. It's very important to get everything pressed down and placed so that there aren't any unwanted buckles or bubbles, because using different kinds of paper, like that large green area is Lokta paper, which has been painted with acrylic, so it has a very different weight and texture than some of the other papers. But this is what kind of gives the collage a feeling of texture and life and variety, different surfaces. And now I'm going back in. Now that I have the major shapes, I'm just going back in for the details of the houses and the rock forms. It's really important for a shape that is going to be in front of something else to be physically in front of it sometimes when you're doing collage, because otherwise it won't read as being in the foreground. Those are the two house shapes going in there. What I'm doing there, if you can see, is I'm actually sanding the back of the paper that the house shapes are on, because I want the paper to be thinner so that it won't sit up overly high and not unify with the rest of the surfaces in the collage. I don't want it to look like it's just thrown on there. I want it to be part of the image. Sometimes you can thin the paper, not just by sanding, but by just peeling off the very back layer carefully. And at this point, I'm ready to let it sit for a while. Okay.